Hello everybody, welcome back to the Nibiru channel. It is February 9th, 2017, and back in mid-December 2016, I received some footage from a gentleman over in France, Bordeaux, France, and the video footage was what looked to be either a very large meteor falling out of the sky or possibly a Planet X flyby. And fellow researcher Dave Dobbs has been doing research on the Nemesis solar system, Nibiru, and Planet X for quite some time now. And he has generated models and also has documented these flybys for quite some time. And myself and Steve Olson were analyzing this footage, and we wanted to get the information over to Dave for him to analyze it and place it into his calculations. Well, he made a video about the information that me and Steve put together. However, I'm just now running across his commentary and his findings on the video footage that was captured in Bordeaux, France on or about, I think it was December 17th, 2016. So here is part of Dave's video, and he'll be talking about his calculations, his analysis, so please listen very carefully.
So hi there, Dave Dobbs here. It's the 29th of December 2016, nearly 2017. And I thought I'd make a video today to follow up on something that Steve Olson brought up on his channel, on his newer WSO channel with Scott from the Nibiru channel. Well, let me just show you the little bit of footage first of all.
I zoomed in on it, and when I zoomed in on it, I basically almost choked on my coffee.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I cannot believe this, because there's no other planet in our solar system that's going to produce, you know, this discharge of these wings.
Right, and that brings up the other thing that you sent to me, and you said, "Hey, Steve, we need to get a hold of Dave Dobbs." So, Dave, if you're watching, you know, I have tried to reach out to you a couple times, but look at what happened. This is from December 17th, I believe, right?
Yeah, a couple days ago in France.
Well, all right. There we go. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that this fits with Dave's analysis of this, and that's what we're going to try to get Dave on. And I'll have you on the show too, Scott, so you can ask him questions. But what do you think of this, man?
Yeah, I mean, this was I got this from one of my subscribers in France. What I'm actually finding out is there is some censorship going on in France.
Okay, so thank you for first of all, Steve and Scott. Thank you for both inviting me in to comment on this. Excuse me, making my own video. I'd love you to put it up with some of your stuff as well, because it very much follows on with obviously this whole research. And Steve, I've got to be honest with you, this doesn't fit into my timeline. It doesn't fit in, and it doesn't make sense with the current timeline, and therefore we have to start making calculations as to what that is. And you've seen me continuously bring up these twin tail sort of flybys. And you know, in the later videos when I first brought them up, I only really show short shots of it, because you can imagine most of my subscribers and people who are following what I'm saying have seen it so too many times. They don't want to be taken through each very long sighting, and that's the characteristic of these sightings, is that they occur for a very long time. They stay in a very they sometimes move backwards, they sometimes move sideways, they sometimes they stay in the sky far longer than a jet chemtrail or comtrail, contrail, whatever they're called. But that this characteristic is it's a Nibiru characteristic, except that Nibiru, by my maths, can't be there because we've already seen it. You know, we saw it heading back towards the sun direction on the 22nd of September. It's not making sense unless we start to consider there really is another twin-tailed object up there. And we've got a big problem here because, you know, as you said, Scott, there can't be another twin tail object. But I've got two testimonies of two video testimonies of another flyby with two what looked like Nibirus, two twin tail objects going exactly the same direction, running exactly parallel with each other. Jeff P brought this up recently as well and said, you know, what about these? What, you know, we have these two distinct sightings. So we know there is another. We know there's several objects orbiting this dwarf planet. Several celestial bodies. I'm not too sure how many exactly. I've heard lots of different sort of accounts, but you know, I like to have documented testimony, and that's why these flybys are so important to me, because they're real flybys that are coming in from a variety of sources, and each one independent. I can't imagine all of these people coming out and getting together and saying, let's all post these independently. You know, I found that timeline by, you know, I didn't have the exact 200 days, or maybe I had one 200-day, you know, interval between two timelines, but I had to basically work it out, and then I had to spend literally probably the best part of really months digging through YouTube trying to find them out as I started working out the timeline. You know, I had to start finding those various flybys, and sometimes I got the dates wrong, and then we had to source out where and when they were originally posted, because sometimes people post flybys of planets and they don't give a time, a date, a place, and they're so important when you post a video, because you can just add so much confusion to you can just water down the mix and throw confusion out. So it takes not just finding a finding, but actually knowing that it's a legitimate, knowing that the time and the place and the date are legitimate. And so we've got a problem with this date. That you've seen all the other timelines that I've put together, they were on the 200-day timeline. Okay, and then we had Becky Lewis's footage, which was on the 28th of March 2015. Now I predicted that Nibiru, in previous videos, I predicted that Nibiru would pass Earth on the 22nd of December. And obviously I've talked about this, and I'm not going to go into too much detail on any of these, because obviously those who watch my channel know all about it, but obviously more people are coming on board with this all the time, so I have to kind of regurgitate everything as we're going along. And it's very important this, because this footage on the 28th of March 2015, I made a video literally a day before that saying we are coming to the 100-day point in this cycle, like a half point after that sighting on the 22nd of December 2015 that I predicted would come in, and then it came in. You know, at the time I thought, oh, what had I done? But then it passed. We had two corroborating testimonies saying it passed. So when I put that together, I realised that at that point, when we you know, I didn't know we were going to see it then. I was understanding that this would be the half point in the cycle. But then we had this footage from Becky Lewis, and we suddenly saw it, and she made it the day after. And when she made it, she was like, oh my God, Dave Dobbs, he'd said that we were exactly at the half point. So she posted the video. It's an incredible piece of footage. And then we realised that I'd actually, in my earlier videos, I'd said that I predicted the next passage, all the next passages. It was around about the 23rd of June, I think. I can't remember exactly. And then it was going to be the 15th, the 25th of. It was going to be the 25th of January 2017. I'd minus 50 days from that cycle, because up until that Becky Lewis footage on the 28th of March, the 100-day point, half point in the cycle, I'd never imagined that it was at, if you like, a right angle. It was being seen at a right angle to the sun from our perspective each time. So because of that, I deducted exactly 50 days from the 25th of January 2017. I had no other choice, because we'd only ever had one cycle, one point in the cycle up until then, as it had gone over the sun. So then my only logical conclusion was to deduct 50 days to bring it to a quarter cycle. The only point it could, if it was going to affect Earth, the closest point would be 50 days before the furthest point away from the sun in the cycle. Except that you'd have to understand, this whole system, for this to happen, would have been having to leave the sun and being on its exit trajectory. Excuse me. So when we saw this 100-day point, it was just like, oh my god, that means that it's finally moved away from the sun. It's close. It's sort of closest point to the sun, which means we're seeing both sides of it. But then we knew it was beginning, absolutely, without any doubt. It was not still going round, it was actually leaving the sun. So we knew it was on its way out. It was just that, where was the exit point? Was it going to come straight over the sun and keep going, sort of in an arc, or was it going to come right back round and come back from whence it came, the same sort of direction? I have no idea. We can all have our different theories and that sort of stuff, but we've got to understand that obviously there's higher bodies, higher intelligence in our own world that understands more about this than I do, that is not telling us. And because maybe it doesn't want us to be too scared, maybe it just doesn't know how to deal with it, maybe it just doesn't really know which side of the fence it's on in all of this, that it's so confused by all the data, it just doesn't know. It's piggy in the middle of just too much, that it hasn't actually got any answers right now. It's just how to deal with the most impossible thing to even believe, and when you do see it, you just can't believe it. It's just overwhelming. And so we come to this footage that you've sent me, Scott, via, or Scott and Steve, you've sent me this footage. Like I say, it doesn't really fit in, or maybe it does, and the 50-day thing is correct, but if that's the case, that's not making any sense to me, because I'm not seeing. You can see just by looking at that footage of the twin tail. So that was on December the 17th, that twin tail. And then we have this footage after, on the 20th, that I'm assuming it's on the 20th, the morning of the 20th, I'm assuming, where you have this red orb and this what looks like a twin tail again. So we have these two corroborating testimonies of two twin tails, one on the 28th of March 2015 and one on the 28th of February 2013. And what's interesting here is that they're both on the same day. So I know that doesn't seem significant in any real way, because there's such a big gap between the two, but sometimes the most simplest things are staring us in the face. And I didn't notice this until after very much in this practice. The reason I work with these twin tails is because there's so much data here. There's so much mind-blowing data that's coming in, just like the wave that's coming in at the moment, and all these kind of like all this helium that's coming in, and this atomic evidence of a collapsed dwarf planet. Something that's gone from the process of fusing hydrogen into helium, and then it's collapsing down more from there, I guess, into more denser material. So it's a very, very old grandfather sun, maybe that's why it has a slightly, it's abundant with a different type of helium apparently. But you know, I'm no kind of like I'm no chemist or anything like that really. You know, I have my own little area. I'm a writer, you know. But so I research information, and there's lots of information about this, and I'd really advise anyone who's trying to understand this to because there's a lot of great minds looking into this. BP Earthwatch is just, you know, his channel absolutely absolutely amazing, really amazing research. Whether he's right, you know, I don't think he's trying to be right. I think he's just trying to gather as much information as possible and open our heads to sort of like trying to understand this a bit better. And so this is new to all of us. You know, most of us can't believe what's happening at the moment. What to say about it? But anyway, we've got two corroborating testimonies here. The other one, like I say, on the 28th of March 2001, on the 28th of March 2015, and one on the 28th February 2013. And so I started running calculations with all of these dates, because there's some other dates that are not fitting in, and I started realizing that I started playing with this month cycle. So then we take the sighting on the 22nd of September 2016. This didn't fit quite with the timeline either. This was, you know, I'd expect the timeline, just to go over the date calculator here, I'd expect that I was expecting on my timeline around about the 17th of October as the half point cycle, and the 22nd of September 2016 of that flyby posted here. That threw a spanner in the works for me. That really did as well, because we have to follow. If we really find a pattern, and we've got enough flybys to actually to make this work. So we're not just kind of like, we're not just playing with the numbers. We've got 7, 8, 9, whatever it is, flybys. You know, all of and really very close to 200 days apart, and that's just too much data to ignore. So. And we've got, like I say, we've got two sightings with two twin tail objects. In both pictures, they're both parallel, and they're a couple of years apart. So I'm starting to put it together that we've got another object. If I put all those dates into a calculator, into a date calculator. Okay, so that means we've got two corroborating testimonies of two twin tail objects, and we've worked out one of them. We've worked out the one that has the 200-day timeline, and that's really what I've been focusing on. We have to focus on that, because that's the data that's really coming in that we're seeing, that gives us, it's the only thing I can see that's going to give us any real clue as to where this thing is exactly, and when it most affects us by absolute fundamental flybys. It's so important. You can see what rests on knowing the exact time that this most affects us, and as the data comes in, we can start building more of an understanding. You know, so we're getting these various shots basically coming in that are basically they're only occurring when we're very close to nemesis of something else, other objects orbiting, other twin-tailed objects orbiting nemesis. It's all just so impossible to believe. When I start putting the data together, it's a little bit hit and miss, but it seems that this thing has literally a 30-day thereabouts cycle, give or take. It's difficult to tell because you never see it when it's completely in line. You only see it when after the sun has set. So you're not getting we're seeing it at various points in its cycle, but it's all just so unbelievably impossible to believe. You're bringing in another thing to try and make sense of all these different sightings, but actually, the kind of mass of this is it kind of all falls on the 25th of. In my mind, it's confusing the data, but we're finding patterns where we can start filling in the gaps, and I'm still limited. That we've had this shot that I took on the 2nd of December, and now Dill Martin has put up a shot on the that was filmed on the 25th, which I believe is the same thing. We watched this object. I saw this object in the northern hemisphere, and that was the picture I caught on the 2nd of December this year, and it's just reappearing now. To me, it's the same thing. It's going round and round, and so it's really confusing all our heads now. That shot on the 22nd of September this year. This shot looks very similar to the shot that you caught on the 17th of December, or you're showing on the 17th of December, Scott. It's looking like this was the first time that we've ever been really that close to that second object, which gives you an idea of how close we are to Nemesis right now. We're literally, if Nemesis was going to affect us, it would be affecting us massively now. And I'm of a mind something has to be protecting us now. Well, I'm told, the space I go to when I do my process, I'm told that we're being very protected now, and so we are now in we're in a place where only time will tell. But by my maths, we should be having, the object that you caught. Well, I believe BP BP Earthwatch posted it originally, and you posted it on your channel, Steve. This shot here, I believe you posted it on the 22nd of December, Steve. I mean, that's where I'm expecting the Nibiru to be right now, right there, with a tail trailing behind it. And it reflects light, and the reason it reflects light is as impossible to believe as Nibiru itself, because I'm suggesting there's a massive shield up there which is collecting all this solar energy and is utilizing this energy to create a shield that's protecting us, to divert gravitational energy so we don't get sucked in by this this massive giant celestial body. And also to somehow use some kind of screen projection which is blinding us from so much, but we're just it's getting very close to us now, because all of this system is getting very close to us now, and so it reflects light back at this thing coming towards us. That's why we can see it. Even the fact that we can see it, have you ever seen, there's so much stuff that is happening now which is quite beyond belief. So that's where I'm imagining it is at the moment. It's appearing very close to the sun. It's actually all occurring between Earth and the sun, but it's appearing above the sun because it's cutting across the line of the sun as we see it, and that's what I believe it's going to do. And it's going to get, my timeline may be incorrect, but I'm just trying to run it on the basic maths of all the other sightings, so we can be logical and sensible and number crunch it. But like I say, I was wrong last year. Okay, I predicted the timeline, but I thought it was going to be a lot closer. And there's a lot of respectable people in this Nibiru field that think that, like I say, that this thing is inbound and it's beyond Earth at the moment and it's heading in. and I just haven't worked out a model for that in all the sightings, especially all the sightings that Chris Potter put up in the early days, and yourself, Steve, and of so many sightings close to the sun. You know, Chris Potter just showed me endless images, endless amazing images, and he was as mesmerised by them as we all were. They were just mind blowing. They were just mind blowing. And so I have to believe that this thing has been in between, closer to the sun for the last several years. I can't get around that, and that now we're finally seeing this thing popping into our night sky, and you remember that the incredible footage of Matthew Rogers. I think it was on the 15th of August. If it's not up at the date, I'm correct, but that was about the time that I was expecting this whole system to be seen in the night sky, but not actually right in our night sky, just when the sun sets. After the sun sets, we get that little passage like we do with Venus. It never goes over us. We only see it we see it in the night sky way before it comes into transit. We see it as it approaches us, and it becomes a kind of like evening star, and then we see it as it leaves, it goes underneath Earth, doesn't go over the top into our night sky, and we see it as it quite a considerable time after it's left its transit, and it's heading out when it becomes our morning star. Hopefully I might have those the wrong way around, but I think you get my gist. And I knew that as we approached the Nemesis system, we would get that shot. I was calculating that we would get that shot because it hadn't passed. We hadn't had a pass, the close passage in June, July. You know, I knew that was the next point in the 200-day cycle, in the full cycle point, but I didn't know if that was the exit. If that was the exit location, or whether Nemesis was going all the way around the sun and back out, like I say, from whence it came. So there's been so much unknown data, we can just calculate it. But with all the sightings, especially with the helium now and everything else like that, how much data do you need? All the earthquakes, the volcanoes, the sinkholes, the whole shaboodle is absolutely happening now.
And Dave is absolutely correct. Everything is occurring now. As I have said before, the earthquake activity is increasing, volcanic activity is increasing, and as you can clearly see, the weather patterns around the world are absolutely, completely erratic and out of control. But we will continue to research and try to find the truth. So please, by all means, subscribe to the Nibiru channel. Make sure your notifications are set, and please, stay tuned. We will have more information. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce one of our new affiliate sponsors, Food for Liberty. And they provide the highest quality long-term food storage, water purification, and survival prepper supplies. All foods have a 25-year shelf life, certified non-GMO ingredients, and also a gluten-free option. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a very smart idea to have at least a 30-day supply of food and water in the case of any emergency. So there will be a link provided in the description box under this video for Food for Liberty. I'd like to thank all of our Nibiru watchers. You guys do a fantastic job. Would also like to thank you for your loyal subscribership. You can continue to email your photographs and your video to NibiruPlanetX2016@gmail.com. And don't forget to share our videos with your friends and family members on Facebook. And subscribe to the Nibiru channel for all of our current updates. And like I always say, keep an eye in the sky.